All right. Welcome to season 2, episode 2 of It's Not a Meisner podcast. We're rolling along here.
We're chugging.
We're chugging. I am your host, Kevin Kittle, here with my co-host, Carson S. Davis.
There it is.
I said that like I was accusing you of being Carson S. Davis.
You do. Well, you also ate my name because of the S's, right?
I hate those fucking S's. Remember last season I tried to change your name. It didn't work.
No, it didn't stick.
No, because we're nobody can change us, man. We're our own men. No one change. I don't know if people don't know this at home, but our podcast is part of a larger conglomerate. Like we're owned by a worldwide corporation, and they try to change us, man.
We're owned by a big podcast.
Big podcast.
Like big tech or big pharma. This is
big pharma, big podcast. And after every episode, corporate sends us a memo that they have notes, and we say, "Hey, man, we do our own content. You don't tell us what to do."
Yeah, old man Leland's really busting our hump.
Well, yeah, they tried to get us. They say, "Hey, why do you talk so much about acting?" And we're like, "That's our podcast, man."
We're not going to change.
No. They tried to get us to cut our hair and shave our beards and take off our puka beads. We wouldn't do it. They told me to stop wearing sandals. I was like, "Hey, man."
I am actually changing you because you logged into Instagram because of this podcast. Kevin Kittle logged into Instagram. That's a big one.
You would not believe the feedback I got when that first happened. They were like, "What?" They went outside to check to make sure that they looked up at the stars to make sure they were still in the same universe. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
I know. I got a cell phone too.
Holy shit.
Yeah, I never owned a cell phone until like a week ago. True. We're laughing, but it's true.
Till a week ago.
Yep. Okay. Well, today's episode is actually a sort of to lay a foundation for the next 2 episodes. So it's a bit of a 3-episode arc here. We're going to lead to opening up the activity and emotional prep. And in order to do that, we kind of have to talk about the use of emotion and the value of emotion to the actor. And all of last season, we went on and on about how emotion in and of itself is not acting. And I hope we hit that. I hope we really hit that. That doing is acting, right? Action is acting. Emotion is not acting. But having said that, emotion is important in acting. You don't want to go out there empty, and you certainly don't want to, push an idea of truth, or an idea of what the character is going through. You need to set yourself up so you have a genuine central nervous system experience on stage, right? So what we will do when we come back from our intro, Carson is going to read a quote from Konstantin Stanislavski, and then this episode will be the two of us taking it apart, reading the quote, and then taking it apart paragraph by paragraph. Okay, we will do that when we come back. It should not be acting training, it should be actor training.
Am I a good actor?
Like me doing It's not a Meisner podcast.
There it is.
Okay. Emotion. One of the first things that my teacher Maggie said to us when I was studying first year Meisner at Rutgers University, she would say to us when we started to get into it and people were starting to come to life, she would say, emotion's a tricky thing. you can't control it. So you might as well not even try.
Yeah.
And that holds to this day. Now that I teach, I go, emotion's a tricky thing. You can't hold on to it. You can't manipulate it. You can't try to force it. God forbid. It's that ironic thing, that paradox, right? That if you actually try to force emotion, you think you're forcing the channel open for emotion, but you're actually squeezing the channel closed, and then nothing will come through.
I also,
Go
I just want to say too that it's obvious to say aloud, but I think a lot of actors think this way, myself included, even while saying this, is equating the word emotion to tears.
Oh my gosh.
And it's such a trap. It's not that.
Well, you know what? Thanks for saying that. You are 100% correct. How come everybody thinks emotion, first of all, means crying?
Yeah.
And also, you and I, all last season, we hit this one over and over. We tend not to use the word emotion. We try to stay away from it.
Yeah.
When I'm teaching, I try to stay away from it. And when I'm directing, you will never hear me use the word, right? We will call it experience. And the reason we will say experience is because if you set yourself up to have a genuine experience, the result may or may not be emotion. And the result of that would be behavior. And that's what we really care about, concrete and vivid behavior. So, but you're right, like there are, well, we're going to talk about this. When we read Stanislavski's quote, we're going to talk about the number of emotions there are available to the human soul, and our listeners may be surprised at the number.
Yeah.
Right. But before we read the quote, you just made me think of something. When you said, "Oh my God," if you try to cry or you think about it, whatever, can we take a little sidebar and talk about italics? Right. You and I talk about that quite a bit. When the writer gives you the sense of what they want the character to be experiencing.
Yeah.
Like the most hateful stage direction. He bursts into tears. You're like, oh, fuck you.
Yeah.
That's hard to avoid. It's hard to not push. But even worse than that stage direction is a line of dialogue where your partner says to you in the dialogue, "Oh, will you stop your crying?" You're like, "Oh, great. I guess I'm crying." And I have to, that person can't say, "Will you stop crying?" unless I'm crying. So then you're like, great, 8 times a week. I have to make that result or that product happen,
Yeah.
So here's our quick note about italics or stage directions. You will often hear acting teachers say the first thing you do when you get your script is cross out all of the italics, right? I disagree with that because I'm a director. So I would say, some of those stage directions are part of the cause and effect sequence. Some of those italics from the playwright are part of the pinch ouch of it all. It's not dialogue, it's action. So you do that action because of the cause and effect sequencing. So I wouldn't cross out all the stage directions, but what they mean by that is, and you and I have talked about this, was a copyright law for the longest time that said that whenever a play got printed, it had to include the stage directions from the original production. So when you look at those old biscuits, you can't take it with you and whatever. Those stage directions are like crosses left.
It was the stage manager's script, right?
It was the stage manager's script of the director's production. So the director's blocking, this was probably part of the director's union or whatever, the guild, where they worked out a contract where that director's stage directions went into the first printing. So that's why when you look at some of those older scripts, the stage directions are as long as any of the dialogue. It's a direct replica of the original production. And I suppose if you held the script in your hand as an actor, you could just walk around on the stage carrying it and following it. Oh, I cross right here. I cross left here. So when they say, when acting teachers say cross out the italics, that's what they mean. You don't have to slavishly follow that. That's not, you might have a different impulse,
Right.
But if the stage direction, it is from the playwright, and, if you pick up a letter and read it and then put it down and whatever, well, what you read is part of the cause and effect sequence.
Right. Right.
You can't go, I'm not going to read that letter. It's part of the stage directions.
Right.
No, it's part of the arc of the experience you're having from curtain up to curtain down,
Yeah. The crossing stage ride down the landing is a bit different than
oh my God.
the phone rings and he doesn't answer, like
That's, yeah, absolutely. I think I'll answer it.
yeah.
No, you don't answer it according to the writer.
Well, would you say too, Kevin, that on emotion, that there's a misconception because of the verb to emote is equated to what emotion is? That if you're experiencing emotion, you must be emoting.
Yeah.
Right? Like, because I got, I've had days where you get bad news in the morning. Doesn't mean 2 hours later, we're doing a podcast or I'm in class or at work that I'm sitting there crying about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
The average person isn't aware of emotions to the degree that an actor would be, because they have had your cool on it, right?
No, that is a really great observation. Emoting. That's a great observation because you know why? Because actors know that they are distilling a larger story into just the beginning, middle, and end of our play, the play we're doing. So they think they have to jam it all in there.
Right.
But you're right. I think the average person, even if something did happen to them, they don't walk around demonstrating.
No, nor should
that. But yeah, you would get up and leave the diner if the person next to you was wailing or whatever, So, but you're right. Actors, I think, look at it and go, I must be demonstrating how I feel at every single one of these moments. But it's actually quite the opposite. You don't want to demonstrate. You don't want to illustrate, right? You don't want to indicate. But you do actually have to be having experience. It's what you do with it, right? So really what we're saying, this is crazy. We're saying that as an actor, you can't desire to feel emotion. You can't go on stage wanting to feel something,
right?
Because it'll work against you.
I'm sure we've said this, but it's the age-old adage of emotion is the byproduct of doing, right? You don't go to you go to do something.
Yeah. You don't go on stage to cry. You go on stage to read a letter, and then maybe what's in the letter makes you cry or laugh or whatever. Yeah. So let's take this time to read this quote from Konstantin Stanislavski, who, again, for those of you who may just be tuning in and who maybe are younger and learning, Konstantin Stanislavski was a Russian artist, theater theorist, thought a lot about theater. He was a director and an acting teacher, and he wrote a lot about it. His work was translated into English in 3 different volumes in America. Now you can get the first volume. It's called An Actor's Work. It's got the first 2 volumes as one, because he meant them as one thing.
Well, because the one that's popular is An Actor Prepares.
An Actor Prepares. Yeah. So I think, what did they take? An Actor Prepares and Creating a Role or Building a Character, whatever. They took the first 2 books that were published in America recently, and they made it into one book called An Actor's Work. Isn't it?
I don't know. I don't have it.
Oh, sorry.
And I don't read books.
Oh, you don't read? Yeah. Oh, yeah. You read. You look at TikTok, right?
I look at TikTok, and I get all my information about acting and world events through memes.
Every now and then I catch you with the old Bazooka Joe comics. You still chew that bubblegum Bazooka Joe. You read the comic.
Yeah.
You know how in our podcast we'll usually recommend things to read. So I'm recommending. I think it's called An Actor's Work. We better look it up.
Here, I'll get
But Carson recommends that you look at memes and Bazooka Joe comics.
Yeah, and Bazooka Joe comics. Yeah,
Those-
no, it is. It's an actor's work. Konstantin Stanislavski.
Yeah. Well, what's important about that is he meant those 2 volumes to be one
Because it's Stanislavski intended to publish the contents of An Actor Prepares and Building a Character as a single volume. However, it was first published as a single volume in English as World War II delayed the publication of Building a Character for more than 10 years.
That's nuts. And again, we're talking about the translation of it.
Right. From Russian to English, yeah.
Yeah. So, but that's so interesting, right? You know, I hate to say it, but it might be the reason why there are some techniques that focus only on that first volume, An Actor Prepares, not realizing that that second part goes with it.
Yeah.
And so if you're only focusing on those exercises and theories from An Actor Prepares, you might focus on emotion.
Yeah.
Meisner said that when he looks at, what's considered the method, he says you're internalizing. I'm not saying this right, but he's saying you're internalizing something that's already internal. Like actors are already alive internally, and then you're asking them to be aware of their internal, and so you're causing them. They're already internal people, and you're making them analyze their internal life. It's like you might be shutting them down in a way.
Yeah.
I don't think I paraphrased that very well. So
no, but your point was across.
Yeah. So to get back to Stanislavski, we consider him the first person to really codify, like, how do you approach acting in a practical and technical way. So Carson's going to read this, and then we'll talk about it.
There's not a TikTok we could just play instead of your...
No, you have to read it. There's no TikTok on. I think Stanislavski himself made a few TikTok. Imagine if he was around, what would his TikTok look like?
Okay. This is called Actors Use Their Own Feelings from Stanislavski. Must we use our own same old feelings in every kind of role from Hamlet to the Blue Bird? What else can you do? Do you expect an actor to invent all sorts of new sensations or even a new soul for every part they play? How many souls would they be obliged to house? Can they tear out their own soul and replace it with one they have rented as being more suitable to a certain part? Where can they get one? You can borrow things of all sorts, but you cannot take feelings away from another person. My feelings are inalienably mine, and yours belong to you in the same way. You can understand a part, sympathize with the person portrayed, and put yourself in their place, so that you will act as they would. That will arouse feelings in the actor that are analogous to those required for the part. Those feelings will belong not to the person created by the author of the play, but to the actor themselves. When a real artist is speaking the Hamlet soliloquy, to be or not to be, they put into the lines much of their own conception of life. For them, it is necessary that the spectators feel the actor's inner relationship to what they are saying.
Hold on for one second. There is one more paragraph, but I want to say before Carson reads it, this paragraph changed my artistic life. Like when I read this last paragraph that Carson's about to read, I was like, holy shit. And it helped me as a teacher and really as a director. So read this last paragraph.
The musical scale has only 7 notes. The sun's spectrum only 7 primary colors. Yet the combination of those notes in music and those colors in painting are not to be numbered. The same must be said of our fundamental emotions.
So before, when I said our listeners might be surprised when we list how many emotions there are, Stanislavski says there's about 7. Because whenever I ask my students how many emotions are there, they always go, oh, it's infinite. so many human emotions. And Stanislavski's like, yeah, it's about 5 or 7. You can count them maybe on one hand or whatever. But what I love about that is that he's saying great works of music are created with the same 7 notes. There's only like da 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 da. Like that's it.
Yeah.
But what you do, there are sharps and flats and major minor. Like it's what you do with it or how you put them together because the notes make a chord, right? But then he says there's only 7 colors in the rainbow, but really there's only 3 primary colors. So even that is like 3 colors, and you get Van Gogh or I don't know, whoever's painting more recently, Basquiat, or like who the fuck? They're using the same colors.
Yeah.
There's only 7 notes, but you get Mozart and you get Doja Cat. Is that a person? Doja Cat? Who is that? Am I saying that right?
An Instagram,
Yeah.
a cell phone.
Yeah.
And now you're talking about Doja Cat.
Is that really how you pronounce it?
I have no clue who you are anymore.
But that's a real person, right? I'm not being died. I'm just saying that person and Mozart are using the same 7 notes,
Yeah.
What they're doing with it. Well, what were you going to say, Carson, before you laughed at me?
You had a point of view.
I'll see. Very good.
No, I was going to say that it's the reason why, speaking to what you say about painting, what he's saying about acting, it's the reason why in my lifetime, I'll probably see 50 Hamlets, That's why we keep doing it. Otherwise, what's the point of doing it if it's already, especially now that there's film. I mean,
no, oh my God.
I can watch Ian McKellen's Macbeth. Why do I need to see another one? Well, because it's going to be different.
No, and in Meisner's book, somebody says to him, Sandy, talking about character, when Hamlet says, oh, that this too solid flesh, that thing. What's the point of view there? Like, how should that person? What's the point of view? And Meisner goes, I don't know, because I don't know who's playing it.
Is that great? Yeah.
Well, because the kid's asking, the student asked Meisner about Hamlet, and Meisner was like, I'm not talking about Hamlet. I'm talking about the person who's playing Hamlet.
Yeah.
So, but I think it's fascinating that, there's like, and sometimes I'll do this with my students, and I'm like, hey, right now, start naming the emotions. And honestly, they run out after 4 or 5. Yeah. They go, sadness, anger, joy. You start winding down a little, maybe jealousy or whatever. But the fact that when I said this changed my life, it was because I was like, holy shit, it got me on the track that I'm currently on of distillation. Like you can distill everything. Like, are you sure that that's the least amount of the thing? We talk about distillation in terms of performance. We always bring up Michael Jordan and the beauty and the poetry and the ease in which he played a game of basketball. When he goes up, he might do 3 or 4 moves in the air before he even releases the ball, but he's only exerting the energy needed to do that thing. He doesn't have any, fingers flying all over the place, or like not even a finger is moving unnecessarily, right? The least amount of energy. For me, grace and ease is so important in art. And how do I define grace and ease? Distillation, like the least amount needed to do it so that nothing's flopping all over the place, And so that's in performance. I'm saying in theory, then you could go, well, shouldn't I be throwing 100 emotions all over the place? No, there's really only about 5 or 7. But what are you going to do with them? Mm-hmm. And what is a byproduct of, you and I have said this, 7 emotions. I will ask my students to make a list. Things you love and things you hate. It's like, that's it? Yeah. Because underneath it, then you go, well, things I love, and you start naming people and things you love. But the next step then is like, well, what are the offshoots of love? So things that bring me joy, brings that fill me with warmth, make me things that make me feel, generosity, those things, right? But then with things you hate, you go things that piss me off, things that frustrate me, things that hurt, things that devastate me. Then you start making that list of like racism. You go, okay, good, but now you have to distill racism because you go, I hate racism. Oh, is that your statement? You know, you better just then you go, wait a minute, I can distill racism to um, fairness, injustice, right? Because you got to say, well, what's at the heart of racism? Because it's terrible. Racism is a terrible thing, but it's also a pretty general thing, pretty big. What do you mean, right? Oh, it's injustice that's getting me. Because by the way, when I do my own work on craft, I mean, I've done this work already, so I know what has meaning to me. Like when I'm directing, I'll go, I hate racism, I hate homophobia, I hate sexism, and then I go, well, wait a minute, really, all of that's injustice.
Right. Right.
And I go, why do I hate it? Because it speaks to my hatred of injustice or my frustration of injustice.
Yeah.
I also find that lately I'm getting frustrated with small-minded people. Like, well, people will say something like they know, like this is the be all and end all. And I'm like, that's the smallest minded thought. It doesn't occur to you that there may be other opinion. I realize that also falls under that category. I get frustrated by a small-minded person.
Yeah.
Or somebody who won't hear. They don't want to hear another side.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing is talking myself from a bigger thing down to the thing that has meaning to me, personal meaning to me.
I was going to kind of speak on that. I hate like preachy art, because I always feel like it's preaching to the choir, or especially like, oh, you're preaching to the people who can afford $200 tickets to your play.
Oh boy.
Guessing.
Ouch.
But I've always it just frustrated me because it's I think that's equally small-minded. Like you're not inviting anybody else into the room or trying to understand their point of view. And I think that's what at least I guess acting, as an actor, not as a theater person, but as an actor, that's where all your work should stem from. Like wanting to, what is it like to walk in this person's shoes? And maybe I understand why this is a big thought, but like to understand why someone is prejudiced, that doesn't mean you agree with them, but to be like, oh, whoa, like what happened in this person's life?
Yeah. Yeah. Look where they came from.
Yeah. Well, because that's the only way we'll ever collectively move forward into that space. But
my God, that's a hell of a thing to say it. I'm preaching to the people who can afford the ticket to come see the thing that and so then we stand up there and, you might as well call the play Racism is Bad. That's the name of the play. Come in here and we'll demonstrate that to you for 2 hours. And everyone in the audience is like, yeah, we feel better about ourselves now because racism, we agree racism is bad, but there's no nuance to that, and there's no challenge.
Yeah. Well, everything is gray. I don't know. I've always kind of like nothing is black and white.
You and I, we're getting a little off topic. Yeah, so if you can remind me, this should be an episode.
Yeah, it should be.
Where we talk about art by definition.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I've heard people say, that art, I didn't go to that play or I went to that museum and it offended me. And I always go, by definition.
Yeah.
You're literally saying the definition of art. It should, quote unquote, offend your sensibilities. It should challenge your value system.
Yeah.
So to say, you weren't alive, but in the 80s, Jesse Helms was a senator and he ran, this committee or whatever. And they, every 20 years or so, they're doing it now. Every 20 years ago, that some government officials get, decide that, like Trump's going to take over the Kennedy Center, whatever. And back then in the 80s, it was like, I'm going to tell you which paintings should be removed from the gallery. You go, oh, you're the one. I didn't know you're the one. So they're like, boycott this exhibition. Why is that? Well, it's offensive. You go, what? That's why they did it. What are you talking about?
Yeah.
And God forbid we ever get to the point where one person or a committee of people are the ones deciding what's acceptable art. That's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
That's not.
Well, I mean, to bring it back
about today, but Jesus.
To bring it back to the Stanislavski quote, that all of what we just said speaks to the same opinion or the same misguided impulse that everybody should have the same emotion or response to something. Yeah. Every actor should experience to be or not to be the same way. And every painting or this painting that's been approved should elicit the same response.
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
That's not the case.
No. Or if you're going to paint the subject matter, you have to paint it like the subject matter.
Right.
And you might go, no, that is my painting of that subject matter. Somebody else be like, oh no, that's not. No, it is the Garden of Eden, and you paint it. And somebody else goes like, that's not the Garden of Eden. How the fuck do you know? Were you there? Were you there?
It's like the timeline of Picasso's self-portraits.
Oh my God.
Like the devolution of that.
Yeah.
It's all the same colors. And for actors, it's all the same.
Yeah. Just think about that whole arc to cubism, even to be like, I'm sick of painting something the way it looks.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm going to paint the elements of the thing, but not necessarily in that order, or whatever. So anyway, back to this quote. Isn't that crazy? Must we use our same old feelings? I love that. He's like, our same old feelings. Yeah. First of all, yeah, you do have to use your same old feelings. What do you got? Other ones? Or I love this when he goes, well, what are you going to do? Go borrow somebody else's feelings so that you could play this part?
Yeah. Yeah.
Here's Stanislavski being funny. Are they, do you expect an actor to invent all sorts of new sensations or even a new soul for every part they play? How many souls would they be obliged to house? Can they tear out their own soul and replace it with one they have rented as being more suitable to a certain part? Where can you get one? He's like going, what is there, a store called Souls Are Us? Yeah. You go like, I need a soul in Hamlet, please. It's like, it's you. You're the one up there. You're housing it. And so, you're the one that's got to find it within yourself.
When you said this early on in season 1, that an actor must know how they feel about everything under the sun,
And if you don't, if you're playing a part and you go, I can't relate to that, then maybe you don't play that part. I hate to say it. Those actors, I'm an actor, I could play anything. Not really. Not really. You may not have the capacity for that part. They'll get somebody else who does that.
Yeah.
Or if you're playing the part and you can't find it, then you find it elsewhere in yourself, right? I think I told you once that I knew somebody who played Salieri, and they, weren't that good at it, but they were a good actor. They were a really good actor. But when I saw them play Salieri, they weren't that good. And so I was very shocked. And I said to them later, what happened there? You kind of were playing at the thing or whatever. And the guy said, I couldn't relate to jealousy. I was like, well, you don't say. What do you, but first of all, my first thought was, really? You couldn't relate to jealousy? Maybe he was saying I didn't want to relate. I didn't want to go there. But I think you could relate to jealousy. But then I said to him, well, then find it somewhere else. Like Salieri, maybe he's not jealous. Maybe he doesn't feel jealousy. Maybe he feels, insecurity, or maybe he feels that he's inept, or in that play, he feels that the hand of God touched this idiot and bypassed me. So,
this play is Amadeus.
Sorry, yeah. In Amadeus, Salieri, in the play, poisons Mozart out of just such jealousy, But really, you could also say, well, really, what he's doing is going after him because God gave that guy a gift and he bypassed you. So you go, okay, that's bigger than jealousy.
Yeah.
Right. So that's all. You just have to say to yourself, well, what do I want to find in this? And if I can't find jealousy, then maybe I can find insecurity, or I can find I don't know what to call this. God doesn't love me, abandonment. I've been abandoned by God, so I kill Mozart. Is find your way in.
I mean, this is like a student question about what you're talking about. Would you say that you could say, instead of finding a way to relate to jealousy, you can just dissect jealousy almost that it's the same thing, just a different word? Like maybe you don't like fate or the idea of fate, and
That is what you're saying.
find your way in, rather
That what we're saying.
than
Yeah. That is what we're saying, right? We're saying if we're being analytical, what is driving Salieri in that play, Antonio Salieri? What is driving him in that play? And you could say jealousy, but then you go, but I really don't relate to jealousy. So then you go, well, I'm going to find a different drive, and the drive there is that fate. I'm raging at fate, or again, God's favorite. I'm not God's favorite, and I'm devotional, and I'm getting shit on. So maybe that's abandonment, or you call it something else.
right.
Inadequacy. I can't relate to jealousy. Oh, how about inadequacy? And then you see the actor just kind of shrink a little, and you go, oh, you found it. But you can always tell when the actor finds it, they go, oh no, they turn all red and they shrink, and you go, oh, you didn't do that with jealousy. But when I said inadequacy, you started to shrink in your seat. Yeah. And you go, cool, go do that work now.
Yeah.
So that's all. He's talking about, you used the word analogous, right? You find the thing. If you want to look at it as an equation, you go, this to the character is this to me, the jealousy to the character is abandonment to me. Okay, as long as it works in the ballpark, right? You and the director will work, because the director might be like, whoa, what? Because maybe your analogy is off.
Right.
So that's your equation. This character feels this way about this event, circumstance, whatever, the way I would feel about fill in the blank. Right. We will talk more about this in our next episodes when we talk about opening up the activity and emotional prep. All right. But the reason that I bring it up is because I will ask my students to, first of all, name the 5 or 7 emotions, and then look at them all and say, yeah, but don't they really come under smaller thing, right? So I'll say love and hate, which is kind of ridiculous. Things you love and things you hate. It's like, that's a bit general. But when you start digging into it, you go, oh, this isn't hate, this is jealousy or whatever, right? But you and I have also talked about this. I have a friend who's a movement artist, and she wrote a book, and she's got it down to exactly 2 emotions, that everything comes from one or two places as an actor: love and fear. Right. So not love and hate, but love and fear.
Yeah.
So that when you said before, what happens when you have to look at somebody who's a bigot or is prejudiced, and you have to understand them? Well, you go right to their fear. What quite often when I'm crafting a character, I'll go, what are you afraid of? What is driving you? But also you could go, well, what do you love? What is driving you in terms of what you love?
Yeah.
So sometimes it could come from one or the other. Because let's say you're playing somebody who's jealous, and you could go, is this love or fear? Because you could go, I'm jealous because I love you so much, and it's hurting me that you're with someone else, right?
Yeah.
Or you could go, I'm jealous because I'm afraid that I'm not enough for you to satisfy you or for you, right? So if you can do it, I'm talking to actors out there, if you can look at your part and go, what's the umbrella that all of this falls under, love or fear? What's the driving force? What's the motivating force here? And so what we're talking about is distillation. Like I can't emphasize enough that you can't act from a big giant idea. When you first start thinking about your part, it does tend to be with a wide, a big wide brush and a swath, And when you first read a play and you start having those feelings when you're reading, like, oh my God, holy shit. You read it like, that's a version. You reading that is the version of the audience when they come to see it.
Yeah.
When you first read it, what you feel, the audience is sitting there going, oh my God, because you, in a sense, recreated the experience you had when you first read it. Well, that's great. But you don't read the play and then opening night is the next night.
Yeah.
Rehearsal is you going, okay, how do I distill all of this? And you can only act from particulars. And, um, this comes from Meisner, but Bill Esper, my teacher, man, was he a fan of specificity. He would call it personalization, right? Particularization, specific, as if, right? The as if, we'll talk about that later, is what personalizes it for you, So Barbara Marchant is like that too, man. When it comes to actions, boy, she would not let you get away with the general action. She would say, if it holds a how, then it's not an action. Meaning, if you could say, how am I going to do that? Then it's not an action. Until you can't say how anymore, we go, no, that's just it. That's the thing. There's not how, right? So if it holds a how, to seduce, how, not an action. How are you going to seduce a person? And then you go, oh, yes, I'm going to compliment you. Okay, do it. Oh my God, your eyes are so beautiful. I'm getting lost in your eyes. That's a pretty particular compliment, action to compliment, right? You could also say to compare and contrast, right? Your eyes. shall I, what is it? Shall I compare thee to a summer's day? Right? Yeah. That's what he's doing.
Thou art more beautiful and as temperate.
Yeah. Thou art more temperate. Yeah. Temperate. Yeah. So, what about my mistress' eyes are nothing like the sun? Yeah. They're all a compare and contrast. If hairs be wire, then black wire grows upon her head.
Yeah.
Like this versus that. No, yeah. It's very particular. Right. So he doesn't just write, hey, here's a sonnet. I love you even though you're ugly. That's not quite what he's saying, but you know what I mean?
Right.
It's not. So distillation. So here's the other thing. We'll wrap this up. Today's a relatively short episode because we're leading actually to two other things that we may spend more time on. When you identify the things that have meaning to you, they're the things that, a certain generation, Carson, that I won't name because you're in it, even though this isn't you. It's everyone around you. They stole this word from us, trigger, right? They use it now. Trigger's a bad thing. I was triggered. We use that word. I'm looking for something to trigger me as an artist, not as a person.
Right.
So when you're crafting, you're looking for those things that will trigger you, right? And so the thing about emotion is that it is personal to you. So that when you and I are walking down the street and the cutest little dog in the world jumps out and just barks at us like, yip, like a little bark. And I start screaming and crying, right? But you're laughing like, what a cute little doggy. Well, you're not the one that got bit by a dog when you were 12, are you? You know what I'm saying? Right. But I'm not walking around. The 5 minutes before that, when you and I were walking, I wasn't saying to you, I got bit by a dog when I was 12. I got bit by a dog. It's not on the surface.
Yeah.
But it is in there. It's in there.
Of course.
And so then a dog jumps out, even if though it's the cutest little dog with the tiniest little bark, my first reaction is, shit. I got triggered, or right. that thing, that event, that moment pulled out of me a personal response, but it pulled out of you a personal response, but different from mine.
Right.
And then you might even laugh at me because I'm so out of adjustment.
Yeah.
You're like, why did you scream and jump when a cute little dog jumped out?
Yeah.
Well, because of, you and I say this quite often in the 1-1 project. Your entire life up until now is your homework. Everything that's ever happened to you up until now in your life, that's your homework. It's all in there. But you don't walk around with it all on the surface. How could you?
Yeah.
Right. like you said, emoting, you know, you could be sitting on a bus stop. Nobody would know what you're living through. It's internal.
Yeah.
But what externalizes it? An outside source.
Absolutely.
What externalizes it? You know, people at home listening to this, think about this. How often does this occur? Like you're alive with something internally, but you're dealing with it. And then somebody you know or love touches you. They put their hand on your upper arm or shoulder and you burst into tears. They pull that out of you. It's because of them, you know? So that's it. Now, listen, this is the last thing I'm going to say, and then we shall quit for the day. There is a trick that we use that sounds funny as hell, but we promise that it is artistically and pedagogically sound. When you're in the wings waiting for your cue, the last thing you say before you go on stage is "fuck it." So when we're worried about emotion, oh no, I have to go on stage and feel emotion. No, really, the last thing you should say to yourself is "fuck it." I did my homework. We rehearsed, and my homework is lined up. I trust it all. But what I'm really trusting is that when you are on stage, the only thing you do on stage is listen and respond. Mm-hmm. You do not bring your homework on stage with you. You don't go on stage to be emotional, right? And if you come on stage with emotion, we're going to talk about emotional prep. If you come on stage alive with emotion, you're not there to hold on to it.
Yeah.
So you say, fuck it. And we laugh at it, but we go like, no, that's really actually the last part of the process. You do all that work just to say, well, forget it. Let go of it. I didn't do all that work to come on stage and demonstrate it to the audience. Young people, quite often, I see them going, but how will the audience know that I did all this work? You don't want them to know you did. It should look like it's unfolding from unanticipated moment to unanticipated moment.
Yeah.
Right? Who cares if you did a bunch of work? You know, you don't go to the deli and the guy's like, hey, look at the way I sliced this meat, huh? Here, get close, come around the counter and get closer. Look at how I do it. No, you know, Michael Jordan certainly didn't be like, hey, look how I'm dribbling. He's not thinking about dribbling. The ball is part of his hand. It leaves his hand and comes back like it's on a string, you know?
Yep.
My friend wrote a great book. I think I told you this. My friend wrote a great book where he says, you imagine the point guard going up court dribbling, and you know he's got a mirror in one hand, and he's looking at himself. Hey, look at me dribble this ball.
Yeah,
dribble it right off his foot, you know, or somebody on defense will steal it from him.
Yeah,
you can't be aware of yourself doing it. So you say, fuck it. I can't control what's going to happen out there. I might as well not give a shit about it.
100%.
You say, fuck it. Just because I'm going to step on stage doesn't mean anything we rehearsed is actually going to happen.
Yeah.
Right. Cool. You got anything before we get the heck out of here?
Oh, I think that covers it.
Yeah. So our recommendation today was An Actor's Work, which is a new translation of Stanislavski's first two books.
Yeah.
Okay. So go look them up, and we shall return for episode 3 of season 2. Yep. Bye, y'all.
Doodle.
Make sure to follow us on Instagram @Meisner Podcast.